A 21st century thief breaking into files, not into metal safes. The mysterious group Anonymous has struck again with a warning. This is just the beginning.
There are only a few places on Earth that come even remotely close to the Yellowstone Park. There's just so much to it, from centuries of history to beautiful landscapes. The exploring knows no bounds here, but while the world is focusing on the pretty canyons and the mesmerizing geysers, something else is going on under the surface, something dangerous. The government doesn't want anyone to know about it yet. Anonymous, the infamous hacker group, just released top secret information. Yellowstone Park has finally shut down. Something extremely weird is happening. Something you wouldn't even notice, even though it's going on right under your feet. What many people don't know is that within Yellowstone National Park there is a remarkable geological marvel known as the Yellowstone supervolcano. It's one of the largest active volcanic systems globally and has a fascinating history that spans millions of years. Over time, massive eruptions and geological changes have shaped the landscape we see today. Now, while that is pretty interesting, you have to keep one thing in mind. Supervolcanoes like Yellowstone don't just pop up randomly. There's a complex process behind their formation. The Yellowstone supervolcano story unfolds through a series of the volcanic cycles that have occurred over a 2 million year period. These cycles have played a crucial role in shaping the distinctive features that make the park so stunning today. The tail end of these volcanic cycles happened around 640,000 years ago. This powerful event had a profound impact on the region, flipping it upside down. During that eruption, the massive magma reservoir beneath the volcano's surface collapsed, forming an enormous depression called a caldera. The Yellowstone caldera is astonishingly 30 by 45 miles in size, far bigger than what you would mostly see around the world. But that's just one of the things that puts into perspective just how massive this volcano could be at its peak. Although subsequent volcanic activity gradually filled in the parts of the caldera, it's still extremely powerful under the Yellowstone volcano. There's a fascinating geological feature known as mantle plume. This mantle plume is essentially a column of hot and molten rock, which in the layman's terms would commonly be referred to as magma. The magma is incredibly rich in heat energy and plays a crucial role in driving the park's geothermal system. Thankfully, the magma doesn't make its way out to the surface, but because of all of the heat underground, Yellowstone is home to some of the iconic geysers like the famous Old Faithful that displays a fascinating geothermal phenomenon. These geysers erupt periodically, shooting hot water in stream high into the air. The eruptions happen when superheated water trapped underground rapidly boils and builds up enough pressure to forcefully eject the water upward. It's one of the most interesting things you'll ever see. But that's not the only way we really get to see the heat here. Apart from the geysers, Yellowstone also features a bunch of hot springs. These springs are formed when groundwater gets heated by volcanic activity. They come in different temperatures and colors, which is why so many areas within the national park have geysers of all vibrant colors. So, if you take a second to really understand the entire landscape, you have all the interesting rock formations, the beautiful waters, the canyons, and even forests, kind of making Yellowstone the hub of everything all at once. Steamboat Geyser is one of the most famous ones in the entire national park. And while it's been going through quite an interesting shift in its behavior in recent times. In the past, it used to erupt unpredictably with intermittent pauses that could stretch for several days or even up to 50 years. But for the longest time, there was pretty much nothing happening here, almost like the geyser has been asleep. But starting in March 2018, that changed. There has been a noticeable change. A steamboat geyser has been erupted much more frequently, sometimes as often as once a week. This newfound regularity was something that alerted scientists immediately, who are now closely monitoring the situation. They are particularly interested in investigating any potential links between this change in behavior and the increased risk of a sudden and more significant eruption, which in the past wasn't supposed to be possible. But all these sudden changes are leading to the possibility of things progressing to dangerous levels fairly quickly. In 2014, Yellowstone experienced a notable earthquake with a magnitude of 4.8 on the Richter scale.
A 4.8 earthquake struck Yellowstone National Park this weekend. The tremor did little damage and few visitors were in the park at the time.
While the quake briefly brought some calmness, scientists aren't that keen on dismissing it as a mere coincidence because, let's be honest, in the real world, there are no coincidences. What's even worse is that we've seen events like this happen before too. And since these events get dismissed as nothing going on, the effect gets catastrophic, and by then no one can do anything about it. One of these events was of the La Garita caldera, a dormant volcano in the San Juan Mountains of the Colorado, United States. The San Juan volcanic field in the Colorado was once a very active place because of the two plates colliding, which created cracks in the ground. Hot magma from the deep inside the earth filled large chambers below the surface. When this magma built up too much pressure, it caused explosive eruptions. What's unique here is, though, that instead of the usual tall volcano shape, the eruptions often made big calderas. The ground would be bulging like a giant bubble until it couldn't handle the pressure anymore and exploded. This passage discusses the aftermath of a massive volcanic eruption, specifically focusing on the La Garita caldera eruption around 2.1 million years ago, and the Toba caldera eruption around 74,000 years ago. Both eruptions were extraordinarily powerful and had significant impact on the planet. The La Garita caldera eruption was so massive that it ranks among the most violent volcanic events ever recorded, and its magnitude is quantified using the Volcanic Explosivity Index, WEI. The WEI measures the explosivity of the volcanic eruptions, with each increase on the scale expressing a tenfold rise in explosivity. La Garita caldera's eruption would rate an unprecedented 9.2 if the scale were expanded, as it had an unimaginable force that changed the planet significantly. A supervolcano's eruption is of unprecedented scale, dwarfing even the most powerful recorded eruptions. It ejects enormous volumes of the volcanic material, creating a vast ash cloud that spreads globally within hours. This results in a volcanic winter with severe cooling, disrupting systems and causing crop failure and leading to famine. Additionally, tsunamis in nearby lakes and the grounding of the air travel due to damaging volcanic ash further compound the catastrophe. The impact on the electrical grid exacerbates the situation with prolonged blackouts. Survival in the event of a Yellowstone supervolcano eruption would be immensely challenging, given the global reach of its effects on ecosystems, agriculture, and air travel.